I don't know where this life will take me. I just know I'm here for the ride. Baby, there ain't no sense in waiting. Yeah, we don't know if we got the time. Oh, I'm just a country girl in a real big world. You can catch me on 65, driving to the mountaintop. I don't make no stops. Yeah, this town was once all that I knew. I'll never forget my roots. I'll never forget my roots.
Okay guys, here's our first one. Hunny Pot podcast. This is Craig. We promise to talk about real life, real people, things that happen, how to handle it, how to go forward. So I cut Craig's hair, so this is kind of a very organic setting for us. And, we just want to talk about, some things that we're going to start with this one. And it's kind of hard hitting because it's kind of like the last, has COVID been 4 years now?
Yeah, see.
2020. Yeah, we're in 2024. Yeah, so COVID's been 4 years, and it has really brought to light a lot of things that, we're going to turn this off because the kids have already called. It brought to light a lot of things people were hiding and how nobody noticed, whether it be depression, addiction, bad marriages. It just brought it all to light. I mean, y'all, the divorce rate during COVID alone was crazy. That's a lot of togetherness, and that's just not for absolutely everybody. So, I mean, Craig, what do you think? And I'll let you kind of give your backstory, and then we'll kind of hit on what you think you've seen since COVID.
No, I'm an alcoholic. Been sober, 36 years? 1988.
Yeah, Craig has a coin. We'll show y'all at the end, and it's June 9th, right?
8th.
June 8th every year. So Craig's been my sweet neighbor a couple of years here in this complex, and we every year we see the new hole he drills, and it'll make sense, guys, when we show y'all. I promise, we're not crazy.
Well, but no, as far as my experiences, a little bit of my backstory. Alcohol was kind of pretty much a no-no in my family, and so it wasn't the way I was raised. It wasn't, there was a history in my dad's family of alcoholism, but that doesn't mean it was accepted. Or my mom's family was pretty much against it, and it wasn't nobody's fault but mine. I mean, I just chose to drink, and people. My folks asked, what could we have done different? And there was nothing nobody could do different. So if you have someone that's an alcoholic or a drug user in your family, it's not your fault, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. It's up to them.
Well, we talk about that. Like, my son shares it every year. Henry shares it. I did bad all by myself. My mama taught me wrong from right.
Exactly. And I've been to Al-Anon meetings where the parents are, what could I have done different? And about the only thing you could have done different was not enable them. People, well, if I buy them this, if I do this for them, they'll quit. No, it's just if you give them money, they're going to go get drunk or use drugs with that. So, it just back up and leave them alone. Let them have their train wreck, and don't be a part of it. But is life good now that I'm not drinking? Well, it's just like when I was drinking, except for I don't wake up in the morning and go, crap. You're still living with yourself, and then you've got all these problems you created by your drinking. And it gets expensive. You know, the fines, getting in and out of jail, fixing vehicles. I did my share of that. But finally, I just got tired of it. I don't know. You know, the good Lord intervened because it wasn't none of my doings. I'd tried and tried to quit, and my ways never did work. But here I am 30 odd years later, and it's only, you know, a little bit of luck, but mainly the good Lord. You know, it's sometimes I decide to take the wheel and things get bad, but I've never drank. That's the main thing. Changed all my friends. You know, I could count on one hand the friends that I've got from 30 years ago, and some of those have died, you know, due to natural causes, whatever. But I've lost a lot of friends that drank, and it's sad, but you know, life goes on. But now, you know, and another thing's funny, you know, is just think of all the money you'll save. I'm still waiting for my money. I'm still.
And we joke about that all the time. We're going to stop these bad habits, and we're going to have all this money. And Craig, it hasn't appeared in the bank account yet.
Nope.
I think I just replaced him with livestock, in my opinion. In my world, I've replaced him with livestock and grandchildren.
Yeah,
what I spend my money on.
You spend it on other things,
yes.
But at least they're things you can enjoy. You know, it's not lost. It's an investment now, I guess. But things I saw since COVID that you were talking about is, yeah, you know, first of all, addiction of any kind it doesn't pick and choose. It's, you know, there's been people way better than me that suffered through it and died with it.
Well, let's touch on that for a minute. I had a client, and we talk all the time about these things, but I had a client some years back, and she'd been my client for years, like since the Joe James days. And I remember the day my son was going to prison. And if you know me, you know my son made horrible choices. He went to prison. He's out. He makes good choices now. I can't say he's perfect. He still makes some dumb shit choices. I've met him. I have met him.
Yeah.
But she looked at me one day, and I was doing her root touch-up and everything, and she said, which as an alcoholic, you might find this really interesting, she said, that really doesn't happen in our demographic.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was a demographic
yeah.
to this lady who glued bows onto mason jars for my wedding.
Yeah.
You know? Suddenly I was a demographic. And I was like... And, you know, and then she went on to really degrade my demographic. And, you know,
yeah.
I was now one of those people who had a son with an addiction problem. And I was like...
We're the pariah.
Yeah, we're the pariah. And I'm like, first of all, I'm his mother, not him. But at the end of the day, I'm his mama.
Yeah.
You know, and I did choose to not keep writing checks for attorneys and not keep doing paperwork and stuff. And it was the hardest thing ever. But I think people need to realize that people will look at you like that, no matter how close you are to them, how confident you are in your trust level with these people. And I mean, and I was just giving this woman the highlight reel.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody could have handled... I mean, Craig, do you think your mama really sat down and gave somebody the real deal? Or she gave them the Sports Center highlight reel? Because no one could handle the crap we would have really spewed. Like, for one, it's unbelievable. For two, people would be like, oh, thank God that's not me. Okay, first of all, that's not a good reaction.
Well, and then they
to
tell
someone going through it. Or, that would never happen to us.
Or this is what you need to do. You need
yes.
to. You don't just stop loving. You don't.
No.
You've still got that nurturing desire. It don't matter how sorry we get. You want to help them and take care of them and love them.
Yes.
You just the switch. There was a family member that told my mom that, well, you just need to quit this and you quit that and quit that. Well, lo and behold, a few years later, her son started doing the same thing. And, you know, the shoe was on the other foot, and I'd like to hear her opinion of things, you know, after that. But, yeah, I mean, when I went through treatment, and it was a 30-day program. I went through treatment, and when I got out, I knew if I went back home, I'd be drunk before the end of the week and going back to work in the oil field. And I asked the guy that owned the place, I said, do you have a place for me here? Can I work? I said, I just need a place. I got to stay. And he said, what can you do? And I just asked him, what do you need done? So I stayed for a year and worked there. I got room and board, and I think $2.35 or $2.50 an hour.
And we were happy to have it.
And I was afoot. I'd got my license yanked for the last DWI and was looking at going to the pen. Fortunately, none of that happened. But you know, I was willing to do anything at that point. I'd done anything I could to drink, so I thought, well, let's try anything to stay sober and stay alive. But no, it doesn't. You know, while I was in treatment, you know, they talked about, you know, drugs and alcohol. You know, we pick and choose, and it's the Skid Row people. I saw 2 or 3 lawyers, prominent lawyers, come through. 3 clergymen, and one was Catholic, one was Baptist, and I think one was Presbyterian. Doctors, you know, MDs, dentists. You know, we're all there, and we were on common ground. And the funny thing about it, after everybody realized that we were all there for the same reason, we all kind of come together, and a lot of those people had died. Some of them went back to drinking. It's I don't know. I'm lucky that I got, that I'm still alive, and I haven't had a desire to drink. That's just, I don't know.
Well, Dakota and I actually on Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, something come up and we were talking about it. And y'all understand, Craig will probably appear here more than once, and we live off coffee. Craig and I will drink it all day.
Yep.
Okay? We don't smoke. Mm-hmm. We don't do drugs. We're not drunk.
Use profanity.
We do cuss. Cuss, coffee, and Jesus.
There you go.
But, so we were talking about it, and he and I'm not 100% how we got, on the topic. It just kind of left-fielded. But we both agree the best thing that ever happened to him was when the state of New Mexico was releasing him. They did not want him.
No.
They did not want him. He basically, I had to basically say I would take him, or he was going to go to the Dream Center in Abilene or something. But he was going anywhere but the state of New Mexico.
Yeah.
And he could not. It was funny. I didn't know they could basically say, you can't go back to where you're and here's me. Oh, you can do that? And this lady calls me, and I'm like, of course, this is all new to me and new to him. Thank God, one and done. Yeah. But here's me. Oh, you can tell somebody they can't come?
Yeah.
Oh. And she was like, yes, actually, Eddy County has refused his release. And I'm all, okay. Well, so did his dad, so there's that. Yeah. But, and even he's like, Mom, I can't even drive into that town. Yeah. And he was like, and now, living a different life, he said, I can't even imagine if I, had to live there.
Yeah. Well, that's funny, you're talking about stuff like that, how the laws are so screwed up. I never had a conviction of any kind with a firearm, ever. I like to go bird hunting, and but that wasn't my thing. But now I can't own firearms. I can't, anyway. I can have a bow or a crossbow. Can't no bullets, nothing. But I can back up to any liquor store and buy all the whiskey or cold beer that I want to. That's
Isn't that
fine.
Crazy?
That was my problem. It wasn't guns. I never shot nobody. I nearly run over a few people because I was drunk. But
well, they let you still have a license.
Well, yeah, but they took it for a year now. But they took my guns for a lifetime that I never got in trouble with. So
it is crazy.
I don't have much confidence in the judicial system. It's all, the laws are, I'm not saying it's all wrong, but there's some screwed up laws for.
Well, I
for
know
those
that
of us,
like
you know.
now my son can apply, and yes, I did just rebraid my hair because that little piece was making me crazy. But he can apply after so many years. Because Dave's brother did it, my ex-husband. But it was like a lot of years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 10 plus.
Well, I've checked into.
But he can have a long gun.
Yeah.
But only like certain ones.
Yeah.
And then, but he had to do all these like appeals through the state, and so it was 10 plus years that he had to wait.
Yeah.
And then I bet that took 2.5 years. But Eddie was an avid hunter.
Yeah.
And he missed being able to hunt with his sons.
Yeah.
And he did get reapproved, but it took so many years. And like you said, we didn't, and Eddie is an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Yeah.
And he's been to prison a couple of times. I'll never forget Dave's mama when we went and she had got a letter from Eddie. And it said that it was like summer camp and he was the ping pong champion. I could have drove her. I should have drove her to the state correctional facility that day. I should have drove her. They would have probably let her in to whoop his butt. We were like, and we go for the weekend and we're there to see Coda, and all the things. And she's like, I got a letter from your brother. So I guess note to self, please don't send your parents crazy. If you screw up and go to prison, even if you're crazy and you don't really understand why you're there and you're not reforming, please don't send it to your parents. Yes, it was just like Boy Scout summer camp, and he was the ping pong champion.
Oh, well.
I mean,
ways of surviving things, I guess. But
can I say Eddie lives his life completely up and up now? No,
yeah.
And that's sad. Do I think he's working on how to make the amends that work for him? Yes. Do I prefer the route you and my son have taken? 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun.
No.
Ever. Coda has an aunt that said you're going to look at yourself every day in the mirror and make a choice.
Yeah.
Because you will
true.
be an addict for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Just not a practicing addict.
Yes. But today, do you want to be a using addict? Or do you just want to be a recovering addict?
Or a killer. There's, it's my wife, bless her heart. She's one of those that can take. She can take or leave alcohol. I've seen her drink maybe 5 drinks since we've been married. But we went to a treatment facility one time to see.
Oh, this is my favorite Melanie song.
A family member that had been, he was going to go to treatment. So we go down there to, give moral support. I was going, it didn't bother me. That was my duty as an alcoholic, to go and lend an ear and show support and, let them know, hey, I'm here if you ever need me. And we're driving down there to Kerrville, and my wife's being pretty quiet. The closer we get, the quieter she got. And the next morning we were going out there to the treatment facility, and she said, "Aren't you nervous?" And I said, "No, why? Why should I be?" And she said, "Well," she said, "I don't. What do I expect going out there?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, how do I know who's the drunks and the addicts and who are the people that work there?" I said, "Well, the people that work there will have a name tag." And I said, "There'll be family." I said, there'll be a bunch of people there. And I said, "You won't be able to tell who's who, except for the ones with the name tags." And we got out there, and we spent the better part of a day. We went to all these meetings, and the family member was there. Me and him, we had a family meeting type deal. And God, I cried like a little kid. First time it had been that intense for me since I was in treatment. And I think they didn't want me to participate in nothing else after that. But, sitting in the group meetings with the family members, not the addicts and alcoholics, but just the NA and the family members.
The affected.
Yeah. And I told them what I said earlier. Y'all, everybody in that room, there was 50 or 60 people, and they're all, every one of them, what did I do wrong? What could I do different? And what do I need to do when they get out? And, this poor guy that was ramrodding the outfit, he was the counselor there, and he knew a lot of the same people I knew up in the Lubbock area that was involved in treatment in AA and NA. And he'd been kind of looking at me for, my reaction, I'm sure, of what all these people were saying, because me and him had talked about the same thing before. And finally, I just kind of, can I say something? And he said, please do. And I stood up and I just looked at everybody and I said, you've done enough. I said, you put just about 90% of the people in here with your actions. I said, you've enabled everybody. I said, my family did the same thing for me. I said, but the best thing you can do is, hard as it is back up and don't help. Cut the money off. Show love and support by coming to meetings like this. But whenever they get their butt in a crack, don't run to help them. Let them get themselves out of it. That's it. And, that's true today. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or 110. You get yourself in the trouble you're in, get yourself out. Don't expect mom, dad, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, friends to get you out because they didn't put you there.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I silenced the phone, forgot the watch. But it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm sure sitting in that room of the, affected, and one of the best things I did was start talking to my counselor again. Mm-hmm. When I knew my son was going to have to go to prison. And, but I think the best thing, and I'm sure you've done this to your mama, and it's not immediate, people. What I'm fixing to tell you takes time. And it took a couple of years. But Coda finally was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But figuring out how to tell your mama, who is your biggest advocate to this day. I mean, I am fierce when it comes to my kids.
Yeah.
And you see that because you see my kids, and if I am when things go a little topsy-turvy or sideways, even their dad is like, Mom, step in. Mm. Because I'm ordered, I'm methodical, I will just handle it. But when he said, Mama, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. And it's, what was that TV show? My Name is Earl?
Yeah.
Where he started calling the people and sending them the letters and stuff. And while that was a funny show, it's kind of a bad depiction because, so in my family there are a lot of addicts of every kind.
Yeah.
People been to prison, people, different things in their lives, praise Jesus. Not all of them, but the largest number are different now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always go well.
No.
I mean, you have to accept people don't get over it.
Mm-hmm. There's people that, the 12 steps and traditions and stuff of AA, making amends to these and that you did wrong, and, let God and somebody else know your wrongs. And, well, there's some of them people I just, I kind of self-preservation on my part. There's some people that would like to pull my head off still to this day, it's been 34 years. And then there's some that I'm too ashamed to go up to yet. And I may never, I want to, but I always look at it too, and the guy that was very instrumental in me sobering up, he said, you can't go into this just with your head down like a mad cow and expect everybody to be ready to forgive you and be accepting that you're right and you're going to do good from now on. So there's some people that will go to their grave thinking you're worthless and sorry as hell and want you to burn in the pits of hell. And he said, you got to be all right with that. He said, don't bother yourself with them trying to convince them that you're actually sorry. That's speaking from an alcoholic. Now, from people that aren't a family member that's having to deal with the drunk or the addict, I don't know what to tell you except for just back up and watch. Don't believe their words, believe their actions. That's, my mom come up to my house one day, and I lived on a pretty major little intersection there in town, and people were always driving by throwing beer cans out. I mean, and I've been sober for, pretty good while, close to a year. Well, it was a little over a year because I'd moved back to La Mesa. And I'm out there picking cans up and just throwing them in the back of my pickup. And my mom shows up, and I'd been in the house or something. I come out the front door, and she's out there just squalling. And I said, what's wrong? I thought something happened to my stepdad or something. She said, you're drinking again. I said, who did you hear this from? She said, well, look in the back of your pickup. And I said, Mom, that's trash. She said, well, where'd it come from? I said, off the street. And I got to looking, there's no two cans alike.
Not like you said it was all horrible beers.
If I starting off with a little bit of money in my pocket, I'd have bought better beer. So, but she was waiting for the other shoe to drop still, and I don't blame her.
Well, and who's to say that even all these years later, now y'all, I get to the privilege of knowing Craig's mama, and she is really salt of the earth, and she is like this, but Craig says she's really like this. Once in a while, there is that.
She can turn on a dime when she gets the red ass, boy.
Like the day my daughter-in-law almost ran her over in the parking lot. She said, who is this girl? That was hilarious. I didn't know she could be feisty till that day. It was hilarious, and I had to tell her, baby, please don't run over Craig's mama. Please don't tear through the parking lot like your ass on fire. I know you're late, but let's not try to run over Craig's mama. But
that's just the way, that's the way you should react.
Well, yes.
Because that's the way we had been all along, Okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? What are they going to do next? And like you was talking about, your son apologizing to you after, it took years. And yeah, it was...
And it's tough.
I told my mom, I'm sorry about the past. But she was real emotional about that. And I can understand. My dad was bad to drink, and she here she comes raising another one. She married one, and now she's raising one, and I just oh hell, here comes another, and I don't blame her for thinking like that, but I'd seen what it caused between him and her, so I knew better, by example, and it's like the two sons that grew up, and one turned out to be a drunk, the other turned out to be a lawyer, and they said, how come you to drink? And the one that was the drunk said, I watched my dad. He was an example. And then the lawyer, the successful one, said, how come you don't drink? He said, I watched my dad.
Yeah.
So it's how we choose. It's nobody's fault. So don't blame yourself. The COVID deal, you were asking about what I thought of that. It's brought things to the surface.
I think a lot of people, we have figured out drank more than we all knew.
And we found out that a lot of the prominent, successful, upper echelon folks were just as likely to be a drunk as somebody sleeping behind your office, which is happening down here.
Oh, yeah.
This was when I first came back to Midland. There was a guy sleeping out behind my office here. And I stepped right in the middle of him one morning, but he took up residence here for a while, and finally we run him off, and, he'd show up here, there, and yonder, and on TV. And then, by the grace of God, he sobered up. I saw him on TV one day, and he was at the soup kitchen helping.
Oh,
and I looked, and I said, holy cow, that's it. And then he died. He'd been sober 2 or 3 years and died. I don't know if he had went back to drinking, drugging, but...
It's so hard on the body, though, too, after all those years. And it is horrible. a lot of people who get clean and sober after years and years and years.
Your body's wrecked.
Your body it's fried.
Fried. Fortunately, I had no physical problems, liver wasn't wrecked or nothing like that, but I only drank for, good and serious drinking for probably 10 or 12 years. I was 28 when I sobered up.
And I mean, really, to say I'm an alcoholic and I'm sober now, that's relatively young.
I'm very young.
I mean, a lot of people don't have it together by then.
No. And, I'm lucky, and I'm grateful that I did, turn my life around. And like I said, did it mean I was going to be successful? Yes, in the sense that I felt good about myself and I could like me for who I was. Am I filthy rich like those people talked about? No. But I get.
I quit smoking years ago, Craig. I ain't saved all that money yet.
Yeah,
Pretty sure I spend it at the feed store now.
Oh, I drank, smoked, and chewed tobacco. All three. And
well, you should be rolling in it.
I quit all three, and I still just as broke. But so I just I'll smoke again, and I started chewing tobacco. But I quit one and go. I just go back and forth. But it's funny. COVID brought to light a lot of the. Everybody has problems. Just because they're living the high life, got the Cadillac and the Suburban and the big house and a boat and a place in Red Osa and a place at Granbury and a place at Brownwood. A lot of those people are a slave to those things they have.
Yeah.
And they're struggling to make ends meet, but by God, they're going to look good in front of everybody. And then when they're at home,
it's the surface.
And then when they're at home, they're miserable. I'm happy. I'm happy now. Yeah, I get upset, at times, but I wake up the next day and feel great, ready to get mad again. But the life's good now. It is. It's great.
Well, and I think we all see this on social media a lot. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
Because it's all hard.
Just don't let it eat you up. You want to
make it harder.
Yeah.
Because waking up now at 50 years old with a horrifying hangover, which let me tell you, I could tie it on with the best of them. And we laugh about my once-a-year trip to Ruidoso because once in a while I will just let her rip. I'm at home, I'm comfortable, them are my people.
Yeah.
But I'm always taken care of, but waking up with that horrifying hangover, like in my early 20s, when I was going to school and waitressing and single momming, honestly, y'all, I did all the recreational things to stay alive.
Yeah.
I might get 2 hours of sleep a day because that's really just all I had factored into all the things I needed to complete in my life.
I understand.
And broke is a joke, but I just really am going to tell y'all, it would kill me now.
Oh, I don't want to.
And people are like, well, you just quit that life, And I was like, and I drank plenty when my kids were young. We had rip-roaring backyard barbecues and stuff like that, and I always took everybody's keys and stuff. I was a bar waitress for many years and all the damn things, and I saw some shit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I had a good time, but can I say I enjoy my life now more? That I occasionally have adult beverage or whatever, And I'm not above not having beers at the ballpark or whatever, but I also have to remember I live 37 miles from town.
Well, and the thing about
it's all the things. You just reach the point where you're like, choose your hard, Robin. Because jail's going to be real hard.
Being able to remember and put it all together in order instead of somebody telling you something that you missed and absolutely don't remember it. It's just...
Yeah, there's nothing like... Y'all, and I'm going to tell you right now, thank God there was no social media. When we were ripping and tearing. Because now it's on everybody's Snapchat. And
I've got enough good friends that remind me of that crap.
Yeah. Like I share that little meme on Facebook pretty regularly. Basically, how are we not dead? We were in fields smoking Marlboro Reds, drinking Boone's Farm strawberry wine. And we did things like climb pump jacks and turn them off. That noise was bothering us. You know, we'd break into the little fences. We'd climb them. How are we not dead?
I know. It's just, but for the grace of God.
Yeah, but now I choose my heart, and that's not a heart I want to choose.
No.
I mean, if I want to go out and have a good time, that's fine. I don't want it to be my everyday.
Yeah.
Ever again do I want it to be my everyday or my have to. And I am lucky that when I just decided to change my life, I have that personality.
Well, it's funny.
I just changed my life because I have a family full of people I watched. Like, I have a cousin I watched go to rehab 13 times before it worked.
Well, I got the funny thing. This wasn't too long after I'd sobered up. I had a brother that was getting married in Flagstaff, Arizona. And me and my stepsister drove out there to, of course, we're in the wedding. And after the wedding, we're at the reception. We have the meal. And then the wedding party's sitting up there at this big long table. And somebody comes down there and pours everybody a glass of wine. We're going to do the toast. Well, I've got one of my stepbrothers is sitting beside me, and it comes time for the toast. Well, I pick my glass up, my toast. My stepbrother says, "You're going to drink that?" And I said, "I'm going to take a sip. It's a toast. You're not afraid you'll start drinking?" I said, "Not because of this." I said, "This shit's nasty." I said, "Now, beer, we got bring me a can of beer, a bottle of beer, or a quart." But, I've never been one. I've heard of people, well, I can't eat rum cake. I can't do this because it's got alcohol in it. I don't worry about that. That never was an issue for me, I don't think.
Well, and we have to respect everybody's level of strength.
Yeah, exactly. Don't, just because somebody, we've been places, after I quit drinking is when all this new beer come out.
Oh, of course, right?
There's a shit potload of new beer out.
You probably had like 4 choices? 5?
Yeah.
Wait, let's see. 34 years ago, you might have had 8.
Well, yeah, but then there was the Schaefer and the old Milwaukee.
Oh,
Milwaukee.
Yeah, there was some bad beer back in the day.
That's what I was drinking.
I had an uncle who drank that old Milwaukee, and I remember that smell.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, he'd crack that sucker, and you'd be like, I swear horse piss smelled better. It was rough.
My brother-in-law was talking about this old drunk that lived over around Mentone, and he said, we drove by this place, and he said, "You see that?" He said, "Oh, so-and-so used to live there." He said, "He's an old drunk." So he said, "It smelled like an old sour maize head." But when you said the old Milwaukee, that's
I'll never forget. Oh, yeah, we did have, and it was my stepdad's cousin, but we just called him Uncle, because it's just easier. And, because everybody's your cousins, whatever, you try to introduce people, and you're like, this is my 14th cousin, 3rd roommate, whatever. No, this is my Uncle Jimbo. But yeah, I'll never, to this day, and I am so glad they don't make that anymore.
Although I think they do. It's just,
do they?
Yeah, I'm sure they do somewhere.
Well, and I used to have a father-in-law who wasn't allowed to drink in his house. So he'd get a 6-pack every day on the way home. And so he had to, tend to water and different things at the farm and check things. No, he walked around with his 5-gallon bucket, because we was killing gophers as we were watering. When they popped up, he hit them with a shovel, because the Soil and Water Conservation District in New Mexico will pay you for dead gophers. And they really just want the tail, but half the time they bring you the whole gopher. And so a 5-gallon bucket. So it'd be here, and he'd have this 6-pack hanging right here, and he's got a shovel and a beer. Yeah. And he'd stab the shovel down and drink the beer. Beer can go in there with the gophers, and he'd walk around, and as he moved water, he would... And what's funny is, so Pawpaw was very instrumental in Coda's life, and even Coda remembers Pawpaw and that damn bucket, the shovel, and the 6-pack. But he wasn't allowed to drink in the house, because Grandma wasn't having it. We was not having it. And here's me. So he walks around the fields every day, had his 6-pack.
Killing gophers.
Smoked 42 packs of cigarettes a day. I swear to the baby Jesus. And if I am not incorrect, I think they were unfiltered for years.
Well, that's what I smoked, Pale Male Red.
And I remember when he moved to like filtered ones, and half the time you'd see him out there and chunk it, and we would laugh, talking about choosing your hard. You know, I was talking to a friend this morning on the phone about, like, people don't change. And a lot of it is, this is the person you got all those years ago.
Yeah.
So now suddenly you want someone different. Now, was Papa ever mean? Was he ever ugly? No. He was genuinely one of the happiest human beings. If he didn't have to have that regular job and he could have farmed every day, all day, if it would have paid the bills, the man would have walked on clouds.
Yeah.
Because farming was his love. The family place was his love. And now because his daddy lives there and all the things. I mean, the whole family was just, and it is a cooperative family property. But, you know, choose your heart. Do I think and he had to have that 6-pack every day.
Yeah.
He stopped at Food Jet on Old Cavern Highway and got it. But it was, but we had probably, like we're telling you not to, if you have addiction, there is help or whatever. Some of the best, really, from the heart conversations I ever had with Papa was walking around in that field.
Yeah.
Big pregnant. I'm supposed to be on bed rest, and I'll never forget I had a 1/4 acre garden. And he helped me plant it. I was supposed to be on bed rest.
No.
And his deal was, he got me one of them little pads, and I could just scoop my butt down the turn rows. And when my buckets got full, he'd take them up to the house.
Yeah.
But, so he would do his 6-pack, and I would scoop my butt down the turn rows. And, and pick. We had all the things. That year we had, well, no, that was across the road, the corn, but we provided the water, so we picked it too. We could go pick it too. So, big pregnant. There were grocery bags, pulling corn, and we would shut corn and freeze it and put it up for hundreds of hours. And, we had all this. We had freezers for days because we lived on the farm, and everyone was so used to it. But whether they drink, whether they use drugs, whether they don't, take the wisdom where you get it. Choose your heart.
Well, and just because somebody's drinking doesn't mean they're an alcoholic.
No.
There's a lot of people that have alcohol problems, and it's getting in their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's bothering you,
then it's actually your problem.
It's your problem, yeah.
Yes. And I think her dad had a drinking problem. She was hard line.
No doubt.
Frank Silva walked in that house one time with a beer just to spite his mama, just to prove he could. I thought she was going to beat him with it. And I was like, why? She's crazy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm grown up. And now that my boys have done that, I'm a grown ass man to me, I'm like, I will beat you with your own bloody arm.
It's my house, my rules.
Yeah, and I am, as a parent, much more lax. But the friend and I were talking this morning about as people age, and we were talking about parents and stuff like that. And it's like, but why? Why have you made it this many years? And if it was a problem, speak up. 30 years ago.
Address the problem then.
And speaking of COVID, these people had, we talked about the divorce rate in COVID went.
Yeah.
Because you have to really like and accept the people you're around, not just married to. Your kids, your people, your core, your bubble. Justin and I call it the bubble. Yeah. The people inside the bubble, and then you have the second layer of the bubble, the third layer, the fourth, etc. You have the rings of bubbles. But
well, it's, everybody talking, you've got to love them. Yeah, but you've got to be friends with the person that you're married to. Yes. You can't love them. There's a lot of people, I love you. I love people because we're all God's kids.
Yes.
There's a lot of people I don't like, but I got to accept them for the fact that God put them on this earth.
Well, and what do I tell you all the time about people have capacities?
Yeah.
And you have to rank their capacities. Yeah. And where they fit. And you have to kind of realize that people tap out at different levels.
Yeah. But, you've got to like the person that you're living with.
Yes.
If you love them, don't go marry them just because, I love them.
Well,
but
yeah, and it's a fleeting,
I can't learn to be a friend
misunderstood.
Yeah, it's.
And,
the cart's before the horse.
Yes, and Father David talks at least once a year about a disposable life being lived in this day.
Mm-hmm.
That we treat relationships like the McDonald's sack we just finished and threw in the floorboard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all about choosing your hard. Yeah. Now, do I think Papa probably had, do I think he had to have that six-pack every day? Yes.
He had a dependency.
Yes.
But was it a problem?
I promise he had to have them cigarettes more.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we lived with a sick. You know, what's funny is he smoked in the damn house.
Yeah.
But we couldn't have beer in it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, and you know. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I used to just live next door and think, well, Dad, you come over, Papa, just come over, and you can sit on my steps. You know, I'm not drinking that shit with you. And a lot of times he would come in with like PBR or something. I'd be like, whoo.
But that was the beer back in the day.
Budweiser would have been an upgrade. I mean, like Natty Light might have been better, you know. But we laugh, and you know, people are very judgy.
Yeah.
Very judgy. I think Papa was a huge instrumental part of my life. Like when his son and I divorced, that man never failed me.
Yeah.
And I went train wreck city, and so did his son, for a minimum of 1 year. We were idiots.
Yeah.
And we were fighting and fussing, and that probably went on a good 2 years. I got emails all the time from his daddy. He would call, check on me. You know, he knew I didn't have really just one sister in town, and she was a hot mess express at times, and he knew it, you know, because our grandparents were friends.
Yeah.
So divorce that. Jesus, that was crap.
Well, let people be people.
Yes.
Take care of yourself. Live your life. Don't try to live your life because of somebody or through somebody. Live your life and let these other people enjoy your life. Don't try to enjoy your life because of somebody else.
Yes. And like you said, you stood up in that room and said, you have to step back. Yeah. And I'm forever telling my children and my friends that it is not a bad thing to accept capacities and places. Everyone's capacity places them differently in your life.
Yep.
And I do think what you said about being a friend is huge, because I remember Mama telling me, baby, there's going to be a lot of days you don't like him.
Yeah.
And you're going to just really hate him because he's a man. And this was when I was marrying Frank Coda's dad, and I was young and pregnant and terrified, and this was the right thing to do, and Jesus, and I was a people pleaser to the absolute core of my soul. And I think even Frank and I knew this was not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know? And we get along just fine now. Obviously, our son's like fixing to be 32, so our interaction level is really slim now.
Yeah.
But she said, the only problem is the day he comes home and you don't really love him anymore, then we have our problem. But she told me even then, she said, Papa was my best friend. And my Papa had been passed many years. And she so longed for that connection.
Yeah.
And I think people miss it now because we're so busy. People have a lot of problems. And like you said, COVID blew it wide open.
Yeah. It exposed a lot of things that, well, people like me and you were aware of it. But there's a lot of people that live on this.
And you as a recovering alcoholic, and I have a family full of addicts. I think it does make us kind of tune in.
We're aware of
differently,
and we don't zero in on somebody that might have that problem.
Yeah.
Whereas people that don't deal with it or not part of it, they don't know how to deal with it, so they zero in on that, and they're expecting
that obsessive. This is the problem.
And why are they not sleeping behind a building? So who would let them stay in their house? It's just they don't. It just goes over their head. They don't understand that.
Well, there's so many people I think that they have this expectation level, but I find, and tell me if you do too, they're not even capacity of their own expectation level. But here's
They're a stranger
the
to them.
capacity they want me to be on. But here's the capacity they're operating on in judgment that I didn't get all the way up here every day. And while, and I just said, I partied like a rock star, like Nickelback sang it. And I did change my life. But I have kids, and I have and I do have, I have a different personality, and I have to accept that about people who struggle. Yeah. Is I have that, but it took years and years and years, and it would come and go, and I have to realize that it comes and goes for them too. This strength and this dependence, because I just told you I was a people pleaser to the core of my soul. I mean, my own mother, when I said I'm leaving, no, you are not. You just work it out. And I was like,
nah.
No, this is like going to, I would have ended up on an episode of Snapped. Okay? Frank and I both accept we were the last two people that ever needed to be married. Yeah. Frank didn't want to be married. Frank wasn't done playing. Yeah. Frank's on, I don't know what number wife, but he finally got the one that she has stuck it out. Boy, she is a... And I'm like, praise Jesus, he found the one. And they've been married a long time now, because I really just didn't think there was a woman tough enough. Yeah. Because I knew I wasn't.
Well, it's just, we've all got our own problems. And if we worried about our own problems as much as we do everyone else's.
Agreed.
Everything ain't gonna be all right, but it's gonna help. But I don't know, just like you say, just take care of yourself.
And you're right. We all do zero in.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times, I think that's a coping mechanism for us to deflect. Well, maybe we see ourselves in that problem.
And
maybe we don't understand why they didn't. I
get mad at people, that's, going down some dumbass road that ain't gonna work, and you just want to go pinch their head off.
I want to face palm them.
I've done this. Let me tell you how it's going to end up.
Yes.
And and I've done that, and then I back up and I go, dumbass. Let them. They ain't gonna learn until they learn it the hard way.
Did we learn it any other way?
Well, hell, there's a lot of it I still ain't learned. And I never will. But
people joke. I said I'm on my third husband. I try every day to get it right. I promise I try harder now.
I'm practicing.
And like of course, you talk as there's death and stuff. It's like, well, you would move on. Oh God, no. If I have foobarred this for 3 times, I'm good.
Yeah.
I will live with the horses and the goats and the chickens and but how many people sit in judgment of me on my third husband, and I love this one. Oh, your kids don't all have the same dad. Well, you can look at one of them and know that he didn't come from the other 2. I mean, he's like me, dark on dark on dark. And I was exactly that kid in the family photos.
Yeah.
I have all these pale siblings, and the ones that lived in my house full time are blonde and blue-eyed. Here's
Where'd all the white folk come from?
Here's the family photo. Yeah. Here's the one brown kid.
My dad was that way. My dad was, had, in winter, he was darker complected than most Mexican people. Jet black hair and nearly black eyes. And his mother and daddy were German and Irish.
Oh, so he really was an enigma of all the recessive genes.
Yeah, my uncle, I look more like my uncle.
You showed me that picture. He could have been your daddy.
Yeah. And my dad, I have no colored pictures of my dad and me together. Of course, I was 11 years old when he got killed. But, the pictures they see of me and my uncle, you look just like your dad. It's my uncle.
Well, and do you ever find yourself, like, as time went on, you went, thanks. You just go, yeah, you're just like, I don't have time, patience, or crayons, folks, because, And I don't look anything like my biological siblings.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny. It's hilarious. Like, people will be like, oh, you've got to look like one of them. No. But I am the only one that has that dad.
Well, my sister and I, everybody that knows my dad, or knew my dad, said, you look just like your dad. And my sister, the same thing. But then the ones that know my mother, you look just like your mother. And I can see a strong resemblance in both, you know.
Yeah.
But do I look like my dad? No. Do I look like my uncle? Yes. But my uncle then had 2 sons that were, you know, like you said, one of them was dark complected, dark haired. Another one was fair skinned. He had dark hair. But I don't know. This one's kind of getting off track here. But
yeah. But I mean, it's just about life, you know, and just choosing. And I'm glad every day that there are people that wake up to choose me.
Yeah.
Because whether I have the same problems as them or not, I felt every single day. I mean, you have walked in before and saw me just sobbing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have just face planted my entire life, in my opinion, because I have failed myself or someone I love, or I like mentally can't capacitate, you know, all the things. Like, my God, when I got let go from my job, I was like,
That's it.
yeah, you know, and it's, so when we're choosing our hard with people, we have to remember that the hard they're choosing is always harder than we will be on them.
Yeah, and it's completely different. That's just...
Because for you thinking they fail is a drop in the bucket of how much they feel like they're failing.
Well, my wife always tells me, she said, you need to learn how to forgive yourself.
I tell you, she's smart. But
well,
it's hard.
Then there's me, so that...
Yeah. No, I am, you know, I will hold on to it like a dog who buried that bone under the porch. It can't damn find it now.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm the first to blame myself if something is not, if something has, you know, if my children made mistakes. I always took it on.
Yeah.
Because their dad was at work. You know, and, you know, we had that conversation a while back, and I was like, but I had always felt like it was my fault because I was the ever-present.
Yeah.
You were gone so much that, so, like, when my kids made a mistake or did something absolutely batshit stupid, I immediately took it on.
Yeah.
You know, so when we're being hard on people and Judge Judy, and remember how hard they're judging themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether it's addiction, failed marriages, business failures, failed friendships, you screwed up at your job, you know, whatever. I mean, people fail every day. I mean, I've stood behind this chair for a long time. I left a job I loved, a career I absolutely adored, to be present for my children. But over the last near 15 years of standing behind this chair, I watch, and I really think it was maybe my blessing, because I have gotten to learn that I'm not the only one that's a mess, that has a mess, that is going through a mess, you know. And I remember somebody gifted me this book several years ago, and I have to, I can't find it because I gave it away, which I think you should. And it was Turn Your Mess into Your Message.
Yeah.
And it was a lot about forgiving yourself, but also accepting that there were people who always, this was the hardest lesson for me to learn, and tell me if you agree, there are people who will always see me one way.
Yeah.
I mean, could I move home to my hometown? No.
But what's fun is those people that see you that way is I love to go rub their nose in it and, you know, just show up and say, look, and how's your life going? I'm doing great. You know, and I just like to let them know that I know that you think I'm going to fall off the wagon here 30 years later.
And
you're still a damn wreck. You know, but I don't have to say that. I just let them know that I'm doing good and you're not. So
your train's still derailed. Mine's just hanging on a little sideways.
I'm missing a few wheels, but hey, I'm on track.
At least I'm on the track, you know, yeah. But, and I love it. I told you that one time that a few years back there was that person that walked up to me in Walmart, and I'd been gone from Carlsbad 20 years. We were there camping or whatever. No, we were at Uncle Bubba's in Loving, and I was there with Maxie and them and Kristen, and we were in the Walmart grocery shopping because I'm sure we was going to have big time and we was going to cook because that's what we do because we are those southern folks. And she walks up and she was like, "Where have you been hiding? I haven't seen you in forever." Deadpan looked at her and went, "Texas." And my sister rolling. Sister is dying. She corners and hits another aisle because she was like, "You just poop, Texas." And she was like, "Well, my God, when did you move?" 20 years ago. Yeah. Because, and it is those reminders. Like that woman rounded that corner, hadn't seen me in 20 years, and we are not friends on Facebook.
Act like it'd been 2 days since she'd seen you.
Where have you been? And I'm like, Jesus, get me back across the state line right now.
I showed back up one time, and I was still drinking at the time, and I went off down to Central Texas working on the pipeline. And I showed back up, and people, I show up there where everybody gathered there at town, and I'd just gotten into town that night, drove into town, and I pull up, and people said, they're looking at me like they'd seen a ghost. Well, it heard I got killed in a car wreck.
Good heavens.
I totaled the vehicle while I was gone, but I lived through it.
You're like, nope, made it through.
Fooled you. But it's, life's funny. Thank God. If you can laugh at it. And laugh at yourself. It's.
What do I always tell you? If I don't laugh, I'll sit on the floor and cry.
Yeah.
And there's no real point in that.
Yeah. But today it's not perfect. It never will be perfect. I'm sure of that. But I'm involved in church. I ain't perfect by any means.
No.
But I try not to dwell on the past. I like to laugh at the past. My mom just gets plumb pissed at me sometimes. Laughing at. I said, "Mother, if I didn't laugh at it, it'd drive me nuts." A lot of the things that I did, have brought. I've gained a little bit of intelligence from it, from the past.
Yeah.
And I've learned from it. And do I repeat some of it? Yeah, but not the stupid, god awful, crazy stuff anymore. It's...
Well, and it is a choice.
Yeah. And I still make stupid choices.
Well, I'm still hot-headed. I still ramble off at the trap, and I still lose my temper and things like that. But
life's good.
I
choose, for the most part.
My heart now is the effort.
Yeah.
I love that everybody's like, "My God, you're the busiest woman alive." And I was, and I tell them, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my life now. Like my client that came in, she did tell you she was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And we were crossing 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And she's fixing to remarry. And it was, God's timing. You walked in because you could tell her you can find happiness. Yeah. You and Melanie have been married how many years now?
21. Let's see. Let me do my math. 22.
22 years, and that's what she messaged me a few days ago and was like, "I needed to hear that I am going to be happy. It is okay to be happy. It is okay to think I deserve happy."
Yeah. Well, see, the good things happen to me every 2 years. That's weird. You said she'd been sober 2 years. I got out of treatment, and I went to school. Went to lab school. That was a 2-year program. I got out, and he was to be my future brother-in-law. Little did we have any idea then of that. He got me a job, and I was working in Austin. He got me a job at another laboratory in Austin, which was a blessing. I moved over to that other job, worked there for 2 years, and I got called to come interview for a job in Midland. So I came to Midland, and I worked at that job for 12, 13 years, something like that. And I met my wife at that time. She was working there. She was married, and she went off to another job, and then we reconnected. She was working in this office that I took on as a client and was doing work for this other doctor. And her husband were getting a divorce. She and I married. 2 weeks before we got married, my aunt passed away, my dog died, and I lost my job. All in 2 weeks' time. And I'm fixing to get married. So I called my wife to be, and I said, hey, are you sitting down? She said, yeah, why? I said, I lost my job. Do you still want to get married to an unemployed person? She said, well, that has nothing to do with us getting married. She said, what are you going to do? I said, well, in the morning, Burkett Dental Laboratory will be born. So when I got to work the next day, I called everybody that I was doing work for, told them what was going on. And within no time, I was covered up with work and have been ever since. But the 2-year deal, it kind of petered out after that. But there for the first 10 years of my sobriety,
was 2 years.
every 2 years something would just fall in my lap. I don't know if that's a cycle for everybody.
Well, they say everybody has angel numbers.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everybody has like a number that's significant. See, and I didn't know that story when you were here with my friend and I was doing her hair.
But
in
it's
the
weird.
2 years.
And my sister, she was going through trouble. She's a dentist. She went to dental school. She got out. She was an instructor at 2 different dental schools. She was at Baylor for a while and then at University of Texas in San Antonio. And they were doing a changing of the guard, and all the old doctors that were instructors at UT were retiring, passing away, and all this young blood was coming in, and the school was making a shift. And it was one that she didn't really like. And so she started looking for a job, go buy practice or go in with somebody. And she was looking out of state. And I said, no, there's too many places in Texas. Just be patient. She had found a place in the Denver area that she was hot to go to. I said, nah. I said, wait. I said, something will happen. She called me a few days later, and she said, do you know Dr. So-and-so? I said, yeah, I know him. I said, he's one of the best damn doctors in Austin. She said, well, he's retiring. And I went and looked at his practice, and I'm thinking pretty serious about it. I said, if you get his practice, you're set. She ended up buying his practice, and he'd come in, hang out with her, and he finished up all the stuff he had going. He was there for a year or so, in and out. And, she wasn't looking, she was bound and determined she wasn't going to leave Texas. And she moved 80 miles north from San Antonio to Austin, and that's where she is and has been.
She's still there.
Yeah. And then Danny, her husband, I met him when I was going to lab school. They ended up, fell madly in love, and they're married.
And they live a good life.
Yeah, and it's all just been, she wasn't looking for none of it. You can't force success in life.
In any way.
No.
In relationships, in business.
You've just got to be.
In yourself.
You just have to attack life with both eyes wide open. And if you see something that looks like a shot, act on it. But don't go in with a bulldog mentality that you're going to make it work. But if you see something that's interesting, pursue it. But don't kill yourself over it. If it doesn't work out, back off. Because your life will show up at your feet. Unbeknownst to you when, how, or why. It'll happen. You just got to be receptive to it. And don't look at something and go, that's crazy. Because who would believe I'd be sitting here stone cold sober, alive, married and happy, 30 years later? I'm here.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about, you're like, no, I did total the car, but I'm here.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
I totaled a bunch of them babies. Rolled, I don't know, 2 or 3. Got new teeth for it.
But you learn to stop blocking your blessings.
Yeah.
If the doorknob don't turn, it's not your door.
Yeah.
And Melanie is your door. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we talk about Miss Melanie all the time. And I do think it takes a tougher cookie to marry someone damaged. And I say that about Justin. Because this man took on a woman older than him, 3 kids, got a grandbaby for his 2nd anniversary, you know, all the things, and he has rocked along beautifully. But the people who married the broken, and they're broken in their own way.
They're angels.
But, I mean, some of us are so damaged from so far back, and it's why we feel like we're undeserving.
Yeah.
We hit on that. They really are. There are blessings. Because they don't run for the hills, and they ought to run like their hair's on fire. A lot of times. Because we're a lot. People who are broken are a lot to deal with.
Yep. And he and she do it well.
They laugh at us a lot, Craig.
I gotta go.
You gotta go work.